This show is missing something. I think it needs more unlikable characters, even cheaper production value, and a plot and subplots that go absolutely fucking nowhere. But where could I find such a masterpiece? No, that's too obvious. Hi. If you don't know who I am, what bridge have you been living under? If you don't know somehow, I am the real voice of reason, but you can just call me Trevor. Now, what makes me the real voice of reason? Well, I'm doing too many of these faces. All joking aside, welcome to my YouTube channel where I do reviews and talk shit about video games, TV shows, and films, because I love those things. And the first thing I thought I'd review is one of Netflix's most popular shows, Jupiter's Legacy. I said those words right, didn't I? Though I'm not sure how a planet can have a legacy unless it learns how to fuck. This show is awful. I honestly can't remember the last time I've seen a series make so many narrative, production, and basic structuring mistakes known to man. That happened a lot in recent Doctor Who episodes. Oops. I mean, what the bloody hell is going on here? Who are these people? Where did they come from? Why should I care? Oh, bloody hell, they're dead. Oh. You know, to be honest, I've seen worse. Okay, I think we should take a few steps back here. Jupiter's Legacy has become part of this trend where comic book adaptations need to be more dark, more gory, more adult, more full of sex. Oh god, no, less of that, less! For the most part, these comic book adaptations have been received quite well. They're more or less a breath of fresh air at this age where Marvel has been presenting superheroing as a fun, colourful joyride, where there are mostly happy endings. But then people turned around and said, fuck that. We want to see what actually happens to a guy when he gets punched by Superman. We want to see what really happens to a guy when he takes a laser beam to the face. And they do it pretty damn well, if I might say so. And we want to see innocent civilians who were just going about their normal daily routine get mowed down by the hundreds. You know, the fun stuff.
That was diabolical.
All joking aside, The Boys and Invincible are probably two of my most favourite shows of all time. I'm not quite sure what that says about me as a person.
F***ing diabolical.
And from the trailer, I did actually think that Jupiter's Legacy would be a good contender in this genre. But boy, was I wrong. This show gets almost everything wrong, having likable characters, an interesting world that's comprehensible, an overarching plot that actually goes somewhere, and a production value that doesn't look like this. How did I even get up here? But there are some good things here that should not be overlooked. Though it would be pretty hard to overlook them from up there, eh mate? I think I'm getting the hang of it. But where do you begin with a show like this? Well, I guess you start with... So the planet Jupiter is the fifth and largest planet in our solar system. It is known as a gas giant with 39 moons orbiting around... Wait, hang on, no, that's not it. So, the lore of Jupiter's Legacy starts with 6 people in the 1930s getting superpowers from aliens, and they call themselves the the Union of Justice. And throughout the 21st century, they protect the planet, but, you know, don't get involved in World War II, the Vietnam War, the Cold War, 9/11, and don't go out of their way to maybe stop racism and sexism and all the other isms that are out there. Because, you know, that's totally what I would do if I had fucking superpowers during one of the most hellish times in human history. Anyway, fast forward to the modern day, and all these weird comic book shit has already happened in a square pace of about 90 years. And the Union's original members have all gotten busy, if you know what I mean. And most of those kids have joined the Union, as well as other superpowered people. And if you want to know where these people got their powers, so the fuck would I. It is not at all established where these people got their powers from. Unless these aliens dropped vending machines all over the place and people just paid for powers with a few nickels, I'm not sure where these people are coming from. It could be argued that they're the descendants of the original Union members, but then you'd have to consider that there's probably some Game of Thrones shit happening behind those scenes, and I really don't want to think about that. So for now, or you know, never, just accept the fact that a lot of people just have powers in this universe. Because, you know, science. I mean, it's not like... For example, in that show, all this weird shit is just normal. It's just part of everyone's daily routine. And so the writers don't really have to explore it any further. It's also not like, just to further emphasize how much better these two series are compared to this one, The Boys, where it's pretty firmly established that if you want to have powers in this world, you have to take super drugs. And it's the only way that anyone in that world can become a superhero, regardless of whether they're a good person or a literal Nazi. Literal. As far as I, an incredibly intelligent individual, and the rest of the audience is concerned, these 6 smug as hell bastards should be the only people with powers in this world, which is made not so clear with this show's Now, the main requirements for any story or plot is to have people have a comprehensible beginning, middle, and end. Of facetious example. Okay, yeah, I didn't use the word facetious in the right context. I just thought it sounded cool. The weird problem with Jupiter is that for half of the show, there is no beginning, middle, or end. One half of the show takes place in one day, and the other half takes place in the 1930s. And it's in this half where comprehensible shit happened.
And here we are, Shell. Jammed so far up the ass you can taste it.
I've heard from some reviewers that this half of the show really drags it down, but I strongly disagree with this. It's dragging down what exactly? There's no plot to speak of in the modern day half of the show, and it mostly consists of people arguing about things that could very easily be written into a soap opera.
Yes, because you can never stop being the utopian long enough to really be there for either of us.
That's just not fair.
As little as there is, the plot that takes place in the modern day mostly revolves around this code thing.
You broke the code. Is it the code after the code?
About the code? Stick to the code. The code is broken.
The code is not broken.
Will you two shut up? People are trying to sleep.
Which is basically rules set by the Union that states the following. Don't kill and don't get involved in the world fairs. Since the whole, not getting involved in World War II thing. All of this sounds good on paper. Does this sound good? But the focus of this interesting shit keeps being dragged away to look at this literal dickhead or this bitch's problem, which I don't fucking care about because bloody hell she is unlikable. And even when they do explore the interesting stuff, like a man struggling with his unrealistic worldviews, or the tension between him and his son who wants to become the world's greatest superhero but struggles with his dad's ridiculous standards, and that same father trying to reach out to his estranged daughter, but she pushes him away because she knows that he is too wrapped up in his own worldview for him to really see the world as it truly is. Which is terrible. But all of that is shoved completely to the side by the 1930s side of things, which has nothing to do with the stuff that is going on in the modern day. And as I'm writing this sentence down, I'm starting to actually think, actually, yeah, these flashbacks are actually dragging this show down.
So far up the ass you can taste it.
However, by themselves, the flashbacks are where the real plot is happening, or more of where a plot is happening. And I'm pretty sure in this half is where most of the effort went. I mean, there's emotion, there's heart, there's mystery, there's... Wait. Death, and most importantly, stuff happens! And I honestly can't emphasize this enough, but by comparison, this half of the show is much, much better. It's more character driven. Basically, Black Tuesday fucks Sheldon's family company. Then his dad commits suicide because he was taking money out of his workers' pensions, which Sheldon finds out about, and then he starts losing his mind, cause he thought his dad was a good person, but he obviously wasn't, and then he gets visions that tell him to go to certain places and do certain things, i.e. kill himself. He ignores that, obviously, but the main thing they tell him to do is to assemble a Scooby gang, ranging from people he's known for his whole life to literal random fuckers he meets on this journey. And what connects these people is that they've all suffered a tragic loss, even though they're not seeing the same visions as Sheldon is, which kind of means they're not really connected, so you're kind of wondering what the point is. Yeah, you can still poke a lot of holes in this half of the show, but it is still pretty obvious that this half of the show is where most of the effort went. It could have been much better written, and yes, they do fuck it up by the end, and I'm about to go into that because my god did that piss me the fuck off, and dear god I need to stop yelling. Please, my throat hurts. These writers did not know what to focus on, such as the point where the heroes get their powers, learn how to use them, get introduced to the public, get told by Uncle Ben that great power comes great responsibility. You know, all that good stuff is completely cut out. Yes, people, they cut out the most important part in any origin story. Ugh, morons! And do not even get me started on this scene.
We don't govern and we don't kill. That's the code. That's not just our values, that's our system of checks and balances, so that nobody here can even think about ruling the world.
There is absolutely no build up to this scene. They come back from a cool sounding set piece that we don't get to see because fuck us. Then Captain Bellend over here says, hey, we should have a code that does not allow us to get involved in any wars or any conflict that claims the lives of millions of people. Cause, you know, we'd be seen as gods, and that's wrong. Oh, get absolutely shat on, you. This is not a small issue. Most of the conflict that takes place in the modern day is about this fucking code. This needed more build up. Like say, the public wanted them to become world leaders because, you know, they can get shit done. Or a religious group worships them as gods after they stop like a cataclysmic event and they start causing riots. And the Union would have to get involved in that and possibly had to, you know, murder all of them. And so they put in place this code so that something like that would never happen again. Is this really that hard? I just made that up. Literally anything could have worked in it other than this rushed pile of shit. Literally anything. What am I doing with my time? And one other thing about this scene, for some reason, the older version of these characters look way better in these suits than this lot. I mean, these suits look absolutely ridiculous, although they are comic book accurate. And they look even stupider in them. Not like my dress code. Jesus, it's hot in this thing. There are a lot of things to tick off when it comes to making something good, though I believe the main thing you need is to have your characters be likable and engaging. I mean, you can have a story that's hard to follow, or have your characters do terrible things that leave people more miserable than ever before, but so long as you like them enough, or can engage with them, it really doesn't matter what you do. You'll put up with whatever horrible deed that these characters may commit. So are these characters likable? Have you been paying attention? If not, of course the f*** not. None of these people are likable or engaging, but to stop people from calling me unfair, I will say that there are exceptions, like young Sheldon. No, not that kid, this guy! He's one of those characters that gets the absolute shit kicked out of him. For example, his family company gets f***ed by Black Tuesday. As a result, his dad commits suicide, and Sheldon starts losing his mind to the mutilated corpse of that same dad who keeps telling him that he's a garbage person and he's not angry with him, he's just disappointed and shut up, Dad! But despite all that, young Sheldon is still a likable character because he perseveres through all of it and comes out pretty on top by the end. In fact, it's all these people that have something resembling character arcs. I mean, these look fairly similar, but they're so poorly explored that it hardly seems worth the bother. But the other exception is George here, because there is quite a bit of depth to him. He seems like an arrogant, entitled prick on the surface, but he has scenes of vulnerability that really make you feel for the guy, because it's made clear that underneath that playboy persona of his, he's a man tortured by the memory of not being able to say goodbye to his dying mum. Kind of similar to that other comic book character that you may not have heard of. Another complex character is young Walter. Not the older one, because if you couldn't realize that he was the surprise villain at the end of all this, then you take a few lessons on how to spot obvious bad guys. He's a businessman at heart and has devoted his entire life to his family business, which again gets a nice seeing of the backside.
So far up the ass you can taste it.
And when that happens, it clearly breaks him. Mainly because he blames him for how their dad took terrible skydiving lessons. That might be a bit much. And also because everyone likes him despite him being an absolute tool. The scenes where these two interact, both in the past and present scenes, are some of the major highlights of this show. These three characters and the actors who played them are honestly what stopped the show from becoming an utter waste of time. Unlike Sheldon's fucking kids. These two are the weakest link in an already unstable chain. Brandon is almost worse than his sister for how much of a massive disappointment he is, both in my eyes and his shitty dad's. They tried so hard to make him the emotional core of this series, but fail astronomically. He whines constantly, he never stands up for himself, and worst of all, they don't even do a good job of showing how useless he is. The first scene he's in, he gets kicked through one wall, and it takes away all his HP because apparently this chick with an armor that looks equally really badass and really fucking cheap is a much higher level than him. I hate it when this happens. So then his dad jumps in, instantly KOs the bitch because he's been grinding a lot longer than he has. And then in the next scene, Sheldon says,
He's way too emotional. He's distracted. He's not even close to being ready.
this scene is the only evidence we're ever actually given of how useless Brandon is. And it's way too bloody short. If they had devoted an entire episode to how unready Brandon is, then I wouldn't be talking about this. And fun fact, this is a scene where I almost abandoned this show. It made the fatal error of telling us about a character rather than showing it. And I almost completely stopped watching this show. And I never would have made this video. And this is less than halfway through the first bloody episode. I only stuck with this train wreck just to see how bad it could get. And oh my god, did it get bad. Like 5 minutes later, when his physical manifestation of a headache walked in. Brandon may have whined a lot, but at least he had some sort of character development, as shallow as it was. All Chloe does is complain, and guess what? She does more complaining, followed by some more complaining. Sometimes we'll offer tits. As best as I could describe her character without subsequently taking a shot every time she's on screen.
I don't have a shot glass and I don't have a budget, if you couldn't already tell.
She didn't follow in her parents' footsteps because she didn't agree with the ideal nature of what the job would entail, and instead decided to become a model. And she got the perks of that job, which is being a bitch to everybody and get addicted to drugs. Sorry, am I meant to like her? Other than having one profound line,
Do the right thing. Somebody dies. You do the wrong thing. Somebody dies.
all she does is take drugs, complain about her dad because if it wasn't obvious enough, she has daddy issues, duh, and have sex with every single guy she meets, because this show is trying way too hard to be like the boys.
Suck my dick.
and I'll just take back what I said about Brandon a few sentences ago and say that Chloe is the biggest disappointment of this series. There were so many good opportunities for drama attached to her character that could have actually saved her from being completely unbearable. For example,
The son of the world's greatest supervillain and the daughter of the greatest hero. How'd we ever think that shit was gonna work?
tons of potential here. Hell, this could have been a whole show in itself. A Romeo and Juliet with superheroes. God, that would have been awesome. Quick, someone call Amazon. I've got a great idea. Hell, the comic book took this idea to better heights. In fact, we might as well just start ending this video by saying you might as well read the comment that watched this pile of goat feces, because Netflix pretty much cancelled season 2. Despite, and this really surprised me, Jupiter being the most popular streamed show everywhere when it came out. So what this tells me is that Netflix saw how terrible the show was and decided to pull the plug before it got any worse. And to that I say,
Attaboy, Netflix.
Conclusion. While I am very much glad that this train wreck has been put to a stop, I honestly can't call it a complete disaster. Some bits and pieces of effort have been put in here, like the costumes, some of the acting, and some of the ideas. But honestly, keeping it going would have been just cruel.
Time to be powerful.
So I hope that Netflix will put their time into something a bit more worthwhile. Or something worse. Or nothing. Whatever.
Okay, I've got my main points out of the way, so here's a quick fire round to explain the things I liked and didn't like in the show that I didn't quite get into this main video body. Here we go.
For some reason, Grace, aka Lady Liberty, is more attractive when she's over 100 years old rather than when she's in her 30s. Episode 6 dives more into how Grace feels about the restrictions that the code enforces, and how she deals with the younger union members who are very much getting frustrated with it. It's a brief yet effective character exploration. This guy...
If your mother had any sense, you'd be calling me daddy.
is the only character who embraces the ridiculousness of this world. And it's pretty much the most entertaining character despite having only 4 minutes of screen time during this entire show. I mean, what the bloody goddamn shitting hell? Sheldon looks like he's talking to a therapist, but actually turns out to be a supervillain being held at the Supermax facility. It's a cool little misdirect. This scene.
Sword in your head. How do you know that?
So mysterious and intriguing. It's also well written, acted, paced, and...
Wait!
Never mind. This sex toy that teleports you wherever you want to go. Just awesome. Okay, so here's some things I didn't like. The fact that it looks like you need to scream to the top of your lungs in order to use your powers. I mean... that's just annoying for everybody. Darkstar, I think that's his name, using glasses. His character's been established to not be very smart, so I'm not sure why they're making him read a book. That's for smart people to do. The fact that the main argument for whether the code is right or wrong is made after Kevin killed a clone of Darkstar. A clone! Wouldn't it be more effective if it wasn't a clone and he actually did kill the motherfucker?
Jesus Christ, that guy's got a mouth on him.
This guy's voice.
You are one hard son of a bitch for a with no powers.
It's like they were really not trying.
And get a haircut. You look like an idiot.
This chick in the pink armor never shows up again in the show, which is a shame because she's so badass and there's pretty much terrible storytelling anyway. This scene comes out of nowhere.
It's not the example we should be setting.
Honestly, fuck off, Brandon.
Thank you so much for watching, if there was anybody watching, because I haven't had much luck getting any views lately, especially on YouTube. I'm mostly doing this video because I have nothing better to do with my time. I'm currently unemployed and don't have any uni work to do, so gotta pass the time somehow. Plus I have a lot of thoughts and opinions about various things, and it's nice to get these down in these very exaggerated ways. If you did enjoy this video, please like, comment, and subscribe if you do enjoy my stuff, and hopefully I will see you in the next one, because there will be a next one. I am very bored. See ya.